a look at the top stories that made headlines around the globe this week. Award-winning writer and renowned novelist Chimamanda Adichie has ramped up her criticism of the conduct of the 2023 presidential elections, maintaining that President Muhammadu Buhari and the chairman of the Independent National Electoral Commission, Mahmood Yakubu, blew the chance to emerge the new heroes of Nigeria's fledgling democracy. Speaking on Prime Time with Charles Anyagulu, the novelist also noted that while Nobel laureate Professor Wole Soyinka still has her respect, the playwright's assessment of the poll was incorrect.
Intelligence of Nigerians. Tell us why you see it that way.
Well, I see that when I wrote that letter, because I think it's important to preserve the truth. Right? I think that when something like this happens in a country, it's really important to tell the story of what happened. One of my favorite poems has this line. It's by Robert Lowell, and it says, "And yet, why not say what happened?" So I wanted to say what happened. And what happened is that this was an election that was really unforgivably flawed, and there's evidence for that. And I felt it was important to say that. But also I wanted to call out the US for what I consider a kind of two-facedness when it comes to Africa. So, the US has a long history of complicity in sort of non-democratic elections on this continent. So recently in Congo, 2 or 3 years ago, they endorsed an election that was an absolute sham. But then the same US will turn around and criticize Congo for not being democratic. And so my point was to say, be what you say you are. Right? You cannot criticize African countries for being undemocratic while at the same time endorsing something that is quite self-evidently undemocratic.
Well, that's a good point. But just delving deeper into your letter, you were quite categorical in saying that the electoral process was imperiled not by technical shortcomings, but by deliberate manipulation. Is there enough evidence in your assessment to support that claim?
I think maybe the most glaring is that we Nigerians all saw these mutilated election sheets, right? We all saw them. We saw polling unit agents talking about how what they had from the polling unit was not what was then announced formally, officially, or uploaded formally, officially. And I think for me, that's a really striking reason and an example of how this election was not about technical glitches. And can we also realize that Nigeria is full of very bright young people in tech? There's no reason for that excuse of technical glitch. And the other question then is, if it was a technical glitch, why was it possible for most people to upload the results of the other federal elections, but not the presidential? And I think most of all is that there's just been this resounding unfortunate silence from INEC and from the chair of INEC. I think Nigerians deserve the respect of an institution that's supposed to shepherd their democracy. So nobody's come out to explain to Nigerians how that happened. There's a statement about technical glitches. It's unconvincing. And knowing how much hope and trust that Nigerians invested in this election, knowing that Nigeria is a low-trust society, means, I think, that if people really are sincere and there's really nothing to hide, then you make an extra effort to go out and explain to Nigerians what happened.
Yes, that certainly makes a lot of sense to a lot of people. But in reacting to your letter, and some of the things that you said in it, the APC have suggested that you were not in Nigeria during the election and you did not vote, and therefore should not make categorical statements about an election you did not witness. What's your reaction to that?
Well, I don't think it's very useful criticism. I should say, first of all, that I've never been fazed by criticism. I mean, I wrote this, of course, knowing fully well that there would be criticism from certain quarters. And I've seen a few things people have sent to me, and it's kind of been amusing to read the juvenile fulminations of non-juvenile people. But that said, I actually did try very hard. And I should say, I have two homes. I have a home here in Lagos. I have a home in the US. I'm very often here. I tried very hard to get my PVC. And the reason I tried very hard is because I had been assured that technology would save us. Right, that it had worked in Oshun, worked in Ekiti, and I think in Anambra, that it would save us. And so I really tried. And we should also talk about how difficult it was to collect PVCs and how that in itself is a form of voter disenfranchisement. And so I had done the first part, but then I couldn't collect my PVC. And so, yes, did not vote. But my not voting does not mean that I cannot comment on an election. I'm a Nigerian citizen. Every Nigerian citizen has a right to have an opinion about this election. And so when people say that BVAS worked, but IREV didn't work, which is sort of a way of countering the accusation that the technology was manipulated, really the response is both have to work for the election to be credible. Right, so BVAS was about making sure that we didn't have ghost voters, that people who were actually there voted. But that it defeats the purpose if you then do not upload the results, because those results that you have sort of you've made sure that real people voted, but then those real results, we can't see them in real time. We cannot see them as Professor Yakubu Mahmood said. He said, and I'm going to quote because I've read this so many times, that the public would be able to view the polling unit results as soon as elections are finalized on election day. Right? So I think that's a really important thing to talk about and to address with the Nigerian people. The Electoral Act says that INEC, gave INEC the legal backing to have electronic transmission of results, and did say in a format that INEC would decide. Right? And we know that format because the chair of INEC told us what the format would be when he said that these results would be uploaded at the end of voting from the polling units. And that was not done. And it's
very interesting times. Within the same period, two prominent Nigerian writers, Soyinka and, of course, Adichie, are being attacked for expressing their views about the conduct of politics and political players in Nigeria. But, not to overflog it, I think, both the elder and younger writer both have they have valid points. And what Nigerians should not forget, it's not now an obedience versus, the APC party versus PDP. That's not what this is about. This is about two writers who are drawing the attention to omissions in our electoral process. It's about the fact that on both sides, we have people who are extremists. You would always have people in whatever camp who take the mantle a little bit too far. But even though their mode of interventions may differ, I believe that in truth, they are both concerned about the health of our nation and the character of the political class. What say you, Mr. Steve?
Shaitan, absolutely. I mean, these are two of our very best, not just in the literary firmament, but also in social commentary. These are two people that we are very proud of, that the entire Africa is proud of. Professor Wole Soyinka, Nobel laureate, Chimamanda Ngozi Adichie, who's almost like Nigeria's literary ambassador, to the world. What you can take away to start with from our interview with Charles on Arise is the direct engagement, is the sincerity, of our convictions, and the shooting straight without being combustible. You feel that she's saying weighty, heavy, direct things, but then in a mild, interesting, subtle way to drive home her point. I like the fact that she recognized the, if you like, the lordship in quote of Professor Wole Soyinka, and the fact that she reaffirmed that she respects him, she will continue to respect him, but that they disagreed the same way that many Nigerians obviously disagreed with Professor Wole Soyinka in his choice of words, namely, describing some of the obedience as fascist. A lot of people felt that was rather far-fetched. A lot of people felt that it was needless that he could have made his point without being that caustic. And Chimamanda was right when he says that Prof himself is not somebody that is given to restraint when it comes to choice of words, when it comes to intervention. And we know that Professor Soyinka's life is very heroic, very beautiful, very eventful life. Has always been about, heroic interventions, even in the political space, but of course, when Chimamanda says what she says, she's drawing attention, just like other people are doing on social media. They may not be doing rather decently or with civility, but saying that, Prof, we know that the things that you have said, we know that the things that you have done, particularly in the months and weeks leading to the 2015 elections, when he apparently was on the side of the people at that time in condemning the ills of the Goodluck Jonathan government. So much, I mean, who will ever forget the 2013 July intervention that he made about comparing the wife of the president to the thing he said about you can't take the swamp out of the hippopotamus, that kind of a thing. So people say that. However, the same way that people are engaging with what Professor Soyinka said is the same way that naturally people will engage with what Chimamanda said. People will interrogate our interest, our business in an election in which she didn't vote. They will interrogate the fact that, she's not, she had a side that she was protecting. Of course, she came out clearly that, okay, I'm supporting Obi, which is fine. But then when you have now decided to write to the almighty America, what precisely are you expecting America to do? Is it the same America that we witnessed the election, the last presidential elections, where against all the promises, of the American institution, all that were promised?
She did say that she wasn't writing the letter so that they could interfere in the elections. That she was writing the letter so that she can, keep the truth. Congratulating Nigeria on a successful democratic election almost gives a sheen to.
She had a quote from Robert Lloyd, a poet who said this is about. Not forgetting, saying things as they are, which is okay, as she has said, she has made a point, but then people will interrogate it. Part of the interrogation will be that, yes, certain things were not done. Both the president and Professor Mahmoud could have done better. But then do you actually believe that Peter Obi had a pathway with even what has happened, to victory? But then let's have the courts decide what will happen.
It really is up to the court. But that's all on the week that was.